to the screens for Australian jumping, one of the stars of world jumping, no doubt in the shape of Edwina Tops-Alexander. And Edwina, if I can just quickly bring to everyone's attention some of this stellar career of yours. Now into your fourth Olympic Games, 2016, you were the highest ranked female rider in the world. You've won the global champions twice in 2011 and 12. The winner first of €1 million. The list goes on the $2 million Longines Global Champions Tour Super Grand Prix. Fourth, of course, I'm forgetting also in 2006 in the World Equestrian Games, and what a thrilling final that was. It is an amazing career. It's an amazing career. And if I think back, 1995, the young rider champion of Australia, to where you are now going into your fourth Olympics, how do you view such accomplishments?
I mean, to be quite honest, I mean, I've just been going step by step. And I think during COVID, during that time, I reflected back a lot on everything. And, you know, sometimes I have to pinch myself to see what I've done, because sometimes I'll go into a Grand Prix or about to ride a big class, I'll walk the course and I'll say, oh gosh, this is hard, or this is difficult, or this, that, and the other. And then I remind myself of the experience that I've had and how long I've been at this sport for. And it certainly gives you a lot of comfort, for sure. Certainly gives me a lot of stability in my career. And, you know, I know that without the amazing horses I've had, the great management that I've had, you know, I've had very good partnerships. I know I've been extremely fortunate. Of course, it's not just on one horse; it's on a lot of different horses, which also makes me feel good. Not a one-hit wonder. But yeah, I mean, I'm very happy. You know, if I had to stop tomorrow, I'd be super happy with what I've done. Obviously, I'm not, and I want to continue and do more things. But yeah, look, I know that you know, these horses have really made my career, and I know that the work that goes into it. Yeah, very happy. Would never have imagined it that way. Yeah,
it's an extraordinary career. It's a stellar career, and if we may get to the Olympics in just a short while, but just touching on the young riders with the Stoll Tops Young Rider Series back quickly here in Australia. I was lucky enough to be commentating actually at Caboolture recently in Queensland, and was part and parcel of that team that brought the class over. Extraordinary feeling, I thought, atmosphere, excitement. Or was that just me, or was that the kids? I think the kids were excited, as I was too. But really, I love what you're doing by giving the young riders an opportunity to aim towards something, an aspiration, a beautiful rug, better prize money, qualifiers leading up to an eventual winner. As someone that trains young riders, I just think it's marvellous. And do you feel that need to really push back into Australia and give that return? I must say, by the way, it was won by one Maddie Cinderberry, who I think you may have met over at your establishment. Yeah.
Look, I mean, honestly, if Australia was closer, and if you can find a way to get it closer, I'll do anything.
Yes.
It certainly is. With all the travel I've done, with everywhere I've been, it is the best place in the world. So it's always in my heart.
Yes.
But on top of that, like I said, being so far away, it's just so hard for me to get back there. Obviously now is very hard. But I would love to be able to do more for the country. I would like to give more opportunities. I know that the younger generation is so important. I know for myself where I started, the path I've taken. I know there's a lot of ways of skipping some of those parts that I went through, which at the end of the day, they are part of my success. And I always say, you know, that you've got to come up from a down, and it's the only way you move forward. So, but just to give at least something back, and to give them some kind of inspiration and a feeling of a championship, and, you know, and a nice series, and who knows where it's going to go, where it's going to end. And I'd love to come back at some point in later times and maybe do some clinics or help or advise or anything I can do, because I think giving back is the most important thing. And I think I feel very good by doing that. And I feel like if I can improve even if it's just one rider or two riders, if they learn one thing at every show, it's already a lot. So that's how I see it, and I have a very good feeling, and I think to give them the feeling of hope and dreams, and that it can become possible is very important for me. Yeah.
Well, that's the point I was highlighting, the dreams, and I think the aspiration. And people I talk to, I have to tell you, Jamie Kermond, the Winnings, other folk that have come through your stable, I get a real feeling that a lot of people appreciate the fact that when they're in Europe, often on their own, you do get a few phone calls. I get a lot of feedback how well regarded you are, that you're approachable, that you do try and put people under your roof from time to time. I think that is really wonderful. And I think if this series can, bring people to become what I believe to be, in their eyes at least, the next Edwina. I think people do think that way in the young fraternity, that they have possibly watched your career of some 20-odd years of brilliance. And for anybody to be wanting to follow your footsteps, it's a great thing. We will get to the Olympics, but just quickly, I spoke to Mum earlier, Jenny, and I said, this daughter of yours, she's amazing. She's done all these things in her life. And Mum was quick to point out to me that it's not always been easy either. You've always been a passionate, driven sort of young lady. She even recalled, even in your school cross country, not on a horse, on foot, how your objective in life was to get through the finishing post first, that in everything you did, and including then going towards uni, sports medicine, fitness was a major part. And then she also made the point, which I think is very relevant, is that, Edwina, this is great. The family will be behind you for 12 months as you go to Europe to search for your dream, but don't expect, us to be there financially for you forever. 12 months might pull it up. You've got to go and get a job. Whilst we see you today as this wonderful icon of the sport, I'm really keen for people to realize, by golly, you've worked hard. You've really worked hard. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, nothing comes easy on a plate. And I always say that you only get to where you are from the work that you've put into it. And experience is everything. And, if I look back at how I started and when my trip over here and where I was and all the little hiccups that I've been through, which has what's made me stronger. It's what's made me more determined. It's given me more strength. It's probably given me more self-reassurance. I came over here, had no clue what I was doing, never been to Europe, never lived alone. I'd never cooked dinner, never done anything. And had no idea what I was throwing myself into. And if I look back at everything I've done, I've pretty much thrown myself in the deep end with everything, which is, I wouldn't say the best way, but I think it's the fastest way to know exactly where you stand. And I think at the end of the day, life experiences are what makes you, and they only make you better. And of course, life doesn't go that easily. And I think it's a tough sport because you're working with another, brain and another animal. You need a connection and you need a lot of experience. And I had no idea when I came here. I really had to start from scratch. I had a lot of great basics and ideas, but I really thought I was a lot better than I was. And I came here and I was like, I am like, this is a disaster. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And
really?
I thought,
wow.
Yeah, really. My dressage skills were totally not there. I just sort of got on and rode, and I just went on and did it. And it's sort of how I've done everything in my life. But there has to be, you have to have the education and the knowledge and all the other aspects, which I didn't have. And I had to, put all those ingredients back into the cake and try to mix it up and find my way. And I think having the Australian background of getting on these horses, which I have to say, they're very difficult, the Australian thoroughbreds. They're not easy horses to ride. And I learnt a lot to ride by my feeling. And I remember when I was having lessons with George in the very beginning, I found videos that my mum sent me 20 years later, and I look back at them and I thought, oh my God, like, I mean, if people thought that was me, it I gave myself so much inspiration because I didn't realize how bad I actually was, you know. And
well, but isn't that something in itself? You gave yourself the inspiration. It's a marvelous phrase. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed with, honestly, because if I put those videos up and people saw them, I tell you what, I think every man and their dog would think this sport is possible to do. And the results that I've had, because honestly, like, I had classes where in horse world there where I was falling off 2 times in the same class back in those days. You could get and terrible horses. And look, bad horses are not good for you. They teach you bad habits, but they taught me a lot of other habits. They gave me a lot of strength and they taught me what not to have. But, you know, fortunately, I got a few very good horses before I left Australia, and I wasn't doing it at quite a high level. I did some World Cups, but I just thought, at that time, I really need to see where I need to go. I really need to see if I'm good at this. I need to see if I want to do this. I need to see if I can do this and if I had the talent. And I knew that I wouldn't find that when I was in Australia, but I had no idea that 20 years later I'd be where I was. That's absolutely. So I always say to everybody, everything in life is possible, whatever you're doing, because one day I'll be brave enough and pull out those videos. And I think, honestly, I was completely, I mean, I was lying in bed on my own watching these videos and I couldn't believe it. And then my mum was filming me, giving lessons. She was filming and she's giggling in the background. And I was like, how can you be like, you know, like, I mean, because it was just, I was just so bad, you know, and I had no idea the horse would stop. I'd pat it on the neck and, you know, George would be the opposite. And, you know, and I loved animals and I loved that. And that's sort of what started me off in this sport. But yeah, I think that I always say, and I think that's why I've really got my feet on the ground, and I'm a very positive thinker. No matter what day I've had, you know, I just go back and look at all the good, think of the good things, look at all the great rounds, all the success I've had, to reassure myself. And I even sometimes when I've doubted myself, which everybody has. I've gone back and looked at those fantastic rounds on that particular horse, and I've won many classes from doing that, you know, and being able to visualize. And I don't have a sports psychologist at all. I have it all in my head, and I just have my way and it works. But yeah, anything that I can do to help anyone gives me a lot of pleasure.
Wow, I love your groundedness and I love your honesty, and yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Because people looking in from the outside in, they seem to see, you know, the glamour and this wonderful horse lady, but it's the journey is there, isn't it? In your career, the journey is really there, and I make the point you've worked jolly hard for everything that you've got earned and achieved. It's interesting, also, I think, just moving now towards Olympics, how you're on a new mare, relatively bought in 2019, the Belgian mare. Is it Identity Visceral? Is that how we say the second name? Yeah. Which I can see a bit of tequila in from the previous Olympics, where you ran 9th individually. And I've watched a few, so I saw the young man. So he must have been a homebred horse by the Van der Hasselts, was it? Bred by Mikhail and then ridden by Christoph. So you would only be the second owner of the horse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And she's now 13. And just for those that wish to know, which I certainly do, an Air Jordan sire out of a Darko mare. So beautiful breeding, I must say. But that tequila mare and this mare, I see your little wry smile. Do you like that sort of gritty horse? It seems to reflect the way your personality is. Is that true?
I mean, honestly, I just look, when they've got a great mind and they're positive and they want to do it for you and they give you that extra bit, it doesn't bother me how they are. I'm not a fan of big slow horses. It's not, you know, I'm not, but I'm happy to, I find my way. I try to fit a lot to the horse and then I try to get the horse to fit to me. So I do compromise quite a bit with my riding with the horses, because I think it's so important to keep the naturalness as much as you can and the good horse. But I have to say, she's definitely been one of the toughest ones I've had, and it's taken me a lot longer to find the buttons with her and to get that click. And I think partly that's got to do with the fact that a few things. I once again threw myself in the deep end and first showed at a World Cup 5-star World
Oh,
Cup with
wow.
her. So, yeah. Oh, sorry, second show. I did off.
Oh, only second, yeah, right.
Then I went to La Coruña and I jumped the World Cup and I had a couple down. But great. And then I went to Olympia and I was second in the Grand Prix. But and then COVID came and in sort of March 2020. And then basically since then up until the last probably 6 to 8 months, I've never really been able to get into rhythm with her. And she's definitely a horse that, because she's so feisty and a lot of blood and quite in a good way positive at the jumps.
Yeah.
She's quite of a horse. And and then I had a lot of changing of bits and this, that, and the other. And anyway, I think now, because I've had a lot more competitions, I've been able to make a better program for her, understand her more. She understood me more. And during COVID, I did a bunch of shows, but never, every 4 to 6 weeks, which was not good for her program. So yeah, it's taken me a lot longer to get together. She's probably got a little bit easier scope than Tequila. Tequila has a little bit of a better technique than her in front. But they're similar in a lot of ways. I think Tequila is a bit more in her mind and the way she thinks. She's very proud of herself. Yes. Whereas Identity is very submissive and she's adorable and she's very sweet. I've never seen her with the ears back, and whereas the other one is a bit more quieter. But they're similar types, yeah.
Just doing some research, potentially 70+ percent humidity and up to 45 degrees feels like temperature in Tokyo. Does that concern you? Have you done any preparation around adjusting the mare towards that sort of atmosphere and temperature?
We haven't really had the weather, to be quite honest. Right. It's summer and it's windy and raining. Right. But look, she's got a lot of blood. She doesn't get tired. I've never had her tired. I'd be happy if she was tired, to be quite honest. So there's a way of getting them tired and a way of working with that. And I think it's very important that, their muscles are good and fit, and, you check the blood regularly, keep an eye on everything that's going, and have her the best way possible. I know in Hong Kong it was also quite high humidity then, and I'm pretty okay about all that. I think till now to get there, but I'm not too worried about it yet.
Just one thing for 5 seconds to touch on. We're all very used, unfortunately, to COVID, and obviously the Tokyo Games affected by COVID. What we weren't so across over here in Australia was the detail of the equine herpes virus, how that really impacted on preparation, and if I've got it right, almost closed down the shows in Europe. Am I going over the top, or was it that bad? And do you feel it's still that serious? I'm not quite sure where that's all ended up.
Well, at that time it was very serious, and it was quite disturbing, and we were very worried about all the horses and very careful about where the horses were going, what they were doing, and other horses coming in. And fortunately, we've got the show stables here, so we can separate everything and we could be very careful with that. But yeah, look, I mean, to be honest, COVID and that happening at the same time was a bit of a bomb, but being used to not traveling too much and going on the shows too much, I think everyone was in a bit of a system. Yes. But I think, now it's quieting down. We haven't heard of any cases. It's been pretty good for 2 to 3 months, what I've been aware of. So, yeah, I think they've got it under control. Touch wood.
Touch wood, yes. So just touching on the games then. The gentleman, Santiago Varela, the course builder, I think he's built World Cup finals and he's built Nations Cup finals and the Europeans. What do you think of him? How's he going to go, do you think?
To be quite honest, I've jumped a lot of his courses, and he is very difficult. He's very tough.
Right.
Very, very difficult, very tough. He likes to build big. He builds strong. He's clever. He's very clever at the way he builds his courses, but it's probably going to be a very tough Olympics.
Really? You're putting it out there. That's good. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
From a
like, to be honest, when I rode the wagon cart, he wasn't building them, but that was, I must say, quite soft, considering what I expected. Yes. And how he builds, and all the courses I've done from him. He's very, very good. And I'm very happy when I've jumped his courses and had success.
Right. Yes.
Because it's very challenging, which is good because I think it'll sort everybody out. And it's going to be very interesting. Yeah.
20 days away. You've got me thinking, wonder what round one will look like, because in Rio it was probably a fairish round one day, but I'm wondering how this gentleman will go on day one. Yeah. We're back into Tokyo. 1964 was our best ever placing by any Australian competitor in the shape of John Fay, who finished fourth in the individual. Talking to John this afternoon, again, there was another person who was thankful of coming across you in Europe and getting into a few shows via your hospitality, which he was very grateful. But he also said that how much he wishes you all the very best, and yourself and the team, and that if you were to knock him off his perch, as he puts it, he'd be the first to congratulate you. Have you got something perhaps we could look towards where your mindset might be towards individual and or team? I believe if we finish 8th position, we qualify a team for Paris. Have you thought that through, or just take it day by day?
Look, I think, as everybody knows, this will be the first team appearance for the three of us. And so it's a completely different format, going from individual to Nations Cup. And from my experience, the Nations Cups have been a little softer. You've sort of been able to gradually walk yourself into them, and then step up to the individual. But now being the opposite way around, I'm very curious to know what he's going to do. I'm curious to know how people are going to plan. I know, for example, the French team, they already know who's going to jump the team, like Simon Delestre. Yeah, he's going as reserve, but he knows he's actually going to go in as the Nations Cup. So they've already their plan. They know they're going to save that horse for that class. So he also said to me, he said, I don't think I've got much chance. My horse is not a fast horse, so I better save it up for the Nations Cup. So I know a lot of countries have got their plans put in place, but things do change, as we all know. So I think, unfortunately, because we only have three of us, it's much tougher for us to be able to make any kind of planning. So we have to go in the individual, make the best possible result we can and the best plan from that for the Nations Cup, and see, who should go first, order of go, and all those things. But we have to just go in there and give it our best shot. We've got no other choice.
Yes, well, I think Johnny echoes a lot of the sentiments that everybody in Australia is pushing towards you, wishing you a fantastic Olympics. I mean, if we can get qualified for Paris, fantastic. And if indeed yourself and that little mare, is she little? How tall is she?
Should be like 16 hands, maybe 162. Yeah. She's quite long though.
Yes, but from what I've seen, I really love her. So, conscious of your time, you've been so open. It's unbelievable how well you've just allowed us to get into the mindset of how you're traveling towards Tokyo, and really enjoyed getting some of the backstory to your career. It's been marvelous. I asked Kermo this last night, and if I may, I just finish with this question. Because you have a world of global championships and World Cups and WEGs and so forth, do you feel that the Olympics is still the pinnacle of sport for show jumping?
Yeah, look, the thing is with the Olympics, at the end of the day, you can't, you don't necessarily have the highest ranked riders going, so it's chosen. But I mean, it's different, for example, for example, a lot of the other shows, because you have the best riders or the best combinations, for example, in the world going. So it does throw up again in the mix. But look, it's absolutely something on everyone's bucket list, and it's certainly on my bucket list. And and it's just a different feeling, because there's a lot of hype, and it's a very traditional games, especially this one. And I think it's everybody wants to go to an Olympics. It'll always be high up there, of course. And I'm not saying at the end of the day you've got to be very good on that day, whereas say for example the global tour, you've got to be very consistent over a longer period of time. So it's different. But look, it's good to have everything there, and it's what everyone wants to be at, and achieving the best results that, and I think it's wonderful that equestrian is still there with the Olympics.
And more teams this year as well than at Rio, 35 versus 27. So that's interesting. Yeah. But anyway, the city of romance in Paris awaits in 2024. So, but before then, there's a really big shot at the games, and I just can't help but think you've done. You're knocking on the door of everything else, and I would love to think that we can see a great result from yourself individually and, of course, as a team at these Olympics. So I really thank you again for your time. Really enjoyed talking to you. So good luck for these Tokyo Games.
Thank you very much. Pleasure. Thanks for the time. Thank you.